Chris Rock says that he's no victim. He is not a victim.
Right,
but
right.
Selective outrage, especially the last 8 or so minutes of selective outrage, and if you look at, again, if I could be a psychologist from afar, if you just look at him after he dropped the mic, he just looks so emotional. He may not be a victim, but I'll be damned if he ain't traumatized. He's hurt, and I think everything we heard and how we process everything he said and how we critique everything he said in this latest Netflix special, to me, needs to be viewed through the prism of hurt people. And this is somebody who's still processing what he went through, who's still traumatized by what he went through, who's still scarred by what he went through. I said this on Friday, or at least I had it in my feed, Michael. The irony of the joke that got a lot of people's attention and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when he said, "I watch Emancipation just to watch Will Smith get whipped." The irony is that Chris Rock is still clearly and understandably scarred.
I can understand why you would say that. I wonder if I tell you a piece of information, one piece of information, because I didn't know you were going to start with that. But if I tell you a piece of information, I wonder if that will change how you feel about it, just slightly. Okay, so I watched this, and I watched Selective Outrage, and I can tell you, what's today? March 5th? Something like that? Okay, March 5th, March 6th, okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you that nearly a year ago, when I saw Chris Rock in Boston, first comedy show post Will Smith slap, I'm going to estimate that 75% of what I heard in Selective Outrage, I heard last year in Boston. So that it was already written. It was already written. Now he didn't address the Will Smith stuff.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me because even though he flubbed on the Emancipation concussion line, which is a pretty human moment, right? Even though he flubbed that was when he executed the most effectively and efficiently. You could tell everything else was kind of like, he had some hits or some misses. He was on one for them last 8 minutes when he went in on Will and Jada. So it doesn't surprise me that he's been sitting on that material for a year.
Yeah. So
that's when he was really in his bag.
Yeah, right. So a lot of the stuff leading up to that, like the Lululemon, racist pants, all those lines, like please kick my daughter out of school. All that stuff I heard last year. Now he sharpened some of it. He polished a lot of it. But, Ryan, you can tell what kind of neighborhood you're in based on who's working at 12:15. Like, all that stuff I heard in 2022. The Will Smith stuff, I don't think he's traumatized.
Yeah, let's start there. Really?
I didn't hear that. No, I didn't hear trauma. I heard a guy who really was processing, okay, he could have gone a lot of ways. He could have addressed it immediately. He could have ignored it altogether, taken the high road. A lot of people were giving him props on the high road. Oh, Chris Rock, he did his job, though. He did his job. He wasn't distracted. He was poised, the grace and all this stuff. He could have gone a lot of ways. I heard a guy who thought about it and said, I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian and I'm a man. So I'm going to turn this into a comedic work, and I'm going to get my payback one way or the other. I can't fight him, as he pointed out. He's bigger than me. I know he can kick my ass. I can't fight him, but I can get him on stage. And that's what I heard from Chris Rock in this special.
Okay. Well, I'll say, okay, that's fair. Because I need therapy more than I am a therapist. So I'll say this. Okay, maybe he's not traumatized. Maybe he's not scarred. Right. Maybe he's not scarred. He should be, in my estimation. He should be. And we don't have to rehash everything we said a year ago. It's on YouTube if you want to go back and see where we stood on this issue a year ago. But if I were him and somebody slapped the shit out of me in front of the world, and that's all people talked about for the ensuing year, I would be traumatized. So I'm not saying that as a charge or as an accusation. I'm saying that from a place of understanding. Because again, The joke that was leaked about I watch Emancipation just to see him get whipped, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, understandably so, because it's like, dog, you don't play around with slavery like that. But what I heard when I watched the bit and I watched the delivery, what I heard was somebody saying, this is how much I can't stand this dude. I went from loving this dude and rooting for this dude and worshiping this dude. It's so bad with me when it comes to Will Smith that I watch a slave movie and root for Massa. That's the depths with which he is, the depths with which my resentment and my hatred runs. That's how I process that joke. It's like, this is how bad it is for me. It's like, and again, here's the second reason why I say that. Because there's some hypocrisy involved. And that's why I selected that last clip to play. He said, people say, well, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you do something? Because I was raised right. My mama told me not to fight in front of white people. Okay. If in front of white people were Chris Rock's guiding light, a lot of his career would look different. A lot of his jokes would be different. A lot of stuff he wouldn't say, including last night. A lot of stuff, and you could go down the rabbit hole if you want, a lot of stuff that he has allowed white people to say in his presence wouldn't fly if he were about what white people think. And furthermore, everything he did last night, especially those last 8 minutes, was the continuation of this fight. Because whereas Will Smith hit with this, Chris Rock hits like few people can with this. Right. So that same fight that you said you shouldn't be having in front of white people, you had it last night. And again, I ain't saying I'd have done it, but I understand. Because if I got slapped on the Oscar stage while doing my job in front of the world, I would want to get it off my chest too. So while I didn't love some of the things he had to say, that's mainly because I don't love this whole situation. I never did love this whole situation. Even though at the beginning, and I'll reference it by saying this, even though at the beginning, see, it's interesting, that headline, he deserved to be slapped by Will Smith. At the beginning, remember, you and I went at it because I was like, be careful what you say to people or what you say about people's significant others because you might get slapped. Chris, that's the way my mama raised me. Don't start none, won't be none. That's the gist of what I had to say a year ago. So now, fast forward to now. Okay, I didn't love everything he had to say or how he said it, but I'm not the one that got slapped. I'm not the one that got assaulted, and so that's why I'm approaching selective outrage, absent outrage, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because I'm like, you know what? This is somebody who's in pain, and hurt people hurt people.
I will say this also. I want to point this out, and I feel this way about comedy in general. Nothing is off the table. So if you're upset about Chris Rock using a movie about slavery, it's a movie. Right. There were lights. There were lights, and the slaves actually got paid, which is not what happened.
They're profiting in the real thing. Story. I got you.
The slaves.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
It's Will Smith. Okay, so I don't think anything is off the table, even jokes about slavery, if it is done well. And as we know from Dave Chappelle, sometimes even jokes about slavery are done well. It gives us an opportunity to look back and say, that was crazy, that was traumatic, but that was a really funny turn of phrase. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. The masters of the craft can pull it off, and some can't. So I think you can joke about anything. That's the beauty of comedy. And I also believe
I don't know about that, but okay. I do. There were some cringe moments. There were some cringe moments in this. So I get what comedy is, but I think if at a certain there are lines that you can toe if not cross.
I push it with comics. I give comics tremendous latitude because I feel like ultimately, if there's a society, if you have a society where people can't laugh at themselves or can't laugh at people in power, then you don't have a democracy. And that's really the case in a lot of countries. Some countries don't let you make fun of the president. They kill you. It's not a democracy. It ain't funny. They ain't funny. Okay, it's not funny to them.
I get it. It's a slippery slope.
I believe in that. And look, Chris Rock doesn't have to be right. He doesn't have to be right. What he's doing is taking an argument. He's countering our usual arguments, our day-to-day arguments. This is what comics do. They look at our day-to-day conversations, our day-to-day arguments, and they come up with a comedic counter argument. You don't have to buy it. Ain't scholarly. It doesn't have to be factual. They can twist it. It can be anecdotal, and that's what the best comics do. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
I'm curious though. But I am curious to hear your perspective because I've heard.
I would just say there was some spots. There was some spots that I laughed. Like I thought the Meghan Markle commentary specific to the royal family. Like it's a Sugar Hill gang of racism. They invented colonialism. Like it was like that was brilliant. I thought that was really funny. But conversely, at the very beginning of it, I found myself saying, well, it's rather appropriate that Chris is wearing white because he sounded like a member of the GOP. Because when he kind of went in on his woke diatribe, I'm like, who is this old man yelling, get off my lawn, yelling at clouds, talking about wokeness and this, that, the other. I mean, it was like, damn, you sound real Republican right now. So that kind of, that turned me off coming from Chris Rock. But again, that's why I go back to how he ended it. Don't fight in front of white people, bro. You've been doing a lot of questionable shit in front of white people.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.